Hi, my name is Jane Mustoe. I am Head of Enabling Functions Technology and Tech Innovation Labs at Tesco. At Tesco, we employ over 330,000 colleagues, and this is my duvet flip.
Why tech?
There's something about tech that really gives you the freedom to look at problems and see what's the best way that you can bring this stuff to life.
For you, what's something that Tesco's taught you?
Every conversation that we start or end is about, is this the right thing to do for our customers?
If there was one thing that you would be adamant has helped you build a successful tech career, what would it be?
The desire to learn.
What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
I get out of bed every morning because Hi, my name is Jane Mustoe. I am Head of Enabling Functions Technology and Tech Innovation Labs at Tesco. I'm feeling great about sitting down with Jack today. I'm really excited to talk about Tesco, technology, where it's going. I said yes to coming on my duvet flip because I think it's the most fantastic opportunity to share just what's possible and what's out there in the world for everyone to sort of partake in. I have never met Jack before, but I am really looking forward to it, although I know he asked some very tough questions, so I've got a little bit of nervousness about that. I would hope from today that one thing that I would love to leave is that anything's possible for anyone. Right, Jack, let's go.
So Jane, welcome to my duvet flip. How are we?
I'm very good, thanks, Jack. It's great to be here, absolutely great.
Well, I can't wait to talk about technology, your career, and all your kind of life lessons along the way. Are you ready?
I think so.
You think so? Cool.
I think so.
Well, let's start where it all began.
Yeah.
First job. Tell me a little bit about your first job. What did you do? And what did that job teach you? So if, with all the knowledge you have now, you was going back to young Jane, what would you be saying?
Yeah, my first job was with Esso Petroleum in technology, actually, and I know that sounds like a strange first job because didn't I get a job when I was 16 or 14 like everybody else, but I used to play the violin, and all my summers were in orchestras, playing 8 hours a day. So I never really, you could argue that was my job, which was a fabulous job, but wasn't something that I got to do any, what I would call a proper job until I actually joined the world of work, which was quite late on. So I joined Esso Petroleum and I joined technology. It was a great first job. I joined a company that had really not done any sort of new technology. It had been all the big old mainframe technologies, really, really old. You probably won't even remember yourself, Jack. There's screens with like green prompts and black screens.
I remember that.
No, and really not at all user-friendly at all. And that's how people even messaged each other. That was their equivalent of text in that time. And I came in having left university and started doing what they call client-server technology, which was building these interfaces. And it just was transformational for them because all of a sudden it gave us a world into what is sort of now our digital and our apps. And so for me, it was just a great opportunity to take everything I'd learned and start something new, and they were willing to give that to me to start to introduce it into the organisation. What did I learn? I think, look, the one thing that's really, really important is working with people and teams. And when you join anywhere new, when you work anywhere, quite frankly, you're on your own. And it's really difficult sometimes moving. But what is always the same is if you spend the time really listening, getting to know the people you work with, you have this amazing environment with groups of people who are really interested, really smart, and who want to do stuff. And I think for me, that was my biggest learning. Get to know the people you work with, really listen hard to what they're saying, and really immerse yourself in the organisation.
I really like that. Get to know the people you work with and learn from them learn from you, and immerse yourself. Did the violin have any kind of impact on or help you in any way in the tech job when you first joined?
Yeah, it has always. And I think it's a really interesting one because quite often people use sporting analogies. For me, music was just amazing. And I think when you're part of an orchestra, I was using an analogy recently, you can have brilliant violinists, brilliant cellists, brilliant wind, brilliant percussionists. But like any band or orchestra, in isolation, doesn't matter how brilliant you are, you really only make fantastic music when you come together. And that's about listening. It's about someone at the front, the conductor, giving you a direction and a steer, but ultimately really listening hard into all the new music around you to make sure you're playing together. And I think that behaviour, that way of listening, that sort of collaboration, actually that set me up really well for my career, actually.
What a great analogy and a great way to link it in. Why tech? Like, when you came out of uni, what was it for you, like, why you wanted to immerse yourself in technology?
Yeah.
At that stage?
Yeah.
When it was green things on the screen?
Screens, yeah. Look, it was one of those moments that it was a pivotal moment. I just started at the time when it was almost coming into the dot-com era. And that was, as lots of people will know, was a bubble, not quite as big as AI is now. But I was always really interested in technology, what it could do for people, whether that was making their lives easier, whether it was the science behind it that helped things like logistics and getting stuff delivered in a really effective and efficient way, all the way through to things that we were looking at as scheduling dentist appointments and how to make that as effective and as efficient as possible. And there was something about tech that really gives you the freedom to look at problems and see what's the best way you can use, the most innovative way that you can bring this stuff to life using this great technology behind. And so for me, that's always been a curiosity. How do you fix problems using things like technology? And I just find that a real driver for me.
And there's so much made up of the tech landscape in terms of different roles for you.
Yeah.
What really excited you? Like, what part of technology?
I loved product. I still do. So I love design. I love product that's functional though, so great design but still needs to be functional, and I think that translates through to actually most of my life. I love clothing, I love food products, I love architecture, I love design, and I think that translates for me into technology products. And if you think about how much we use technology and how it's everywhere, actually getting great design and really thinking about that user experience and how a user's going to use it and feel about using it, that for me is like where my heart is and where I put all my energy.
There's a big push, and every year you see it a little bit more and more around young women getting into STEM careers.
Yeah.
When you went into the industry, like, what was it for you? Was it easy to get into it? Was it hard? Was it a man's world? Like, how did you kind of... Like, I want to talk about this because there's going to be so many fantastic young women tuning in, listening. They can do technology. They can do whatever they want to do.
Absolutely.
So tell me about your journey.
So look, it's a very good point. And when I started, especially in an oil company in technology, it was a bit like a double whammy. I think I was the only girl that they'd had for 10 years as a graduate. And in the whole department, there were about 3 of us. And then I moved to NatWest, and I was one of 4 on a trading floor. And I was the only one in the tech on that trading floor of about 1,000 people. And so it has always been very male-dominated, whether it's engineering-based, technology-based. I think that is really changing, which I am super happy to see. And I think that goes back to what you said, Jack. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy or however you identify. The reality is anyone can do anything. It's just whether you want to. And sometimes it's a bit harder, right? In all honesty, it's still sometimes a little bit more difficult to find your path. And I think it's, the world has got a lot better at giving those opportunities and having equity. But there's definitely more for us to do in that space. But I would encourage all people to follow their dreams and not be put off just because it may feel a little bit more male-dominated or female-dominated, actually, in some industries.
And what were the parts that were hard for you? And what is your advice to anyone tuning in? Because I think you can speak some of your truth on this, being the only female on a whole floor at NatWest.
Yeah.
Like, how did you not let it, because you could easily go, actually, this is a place not for me, I'm going to not do this tomorrow. But actually, if you keep going, you can build a fantastic career.
Yeah. And I think, look, it is difficult. I quite often look back, because I think when you're in it, my personality would say, look, don't let things get to you. Don't let people say things that will put you off. And in those days, there was still a fair amount of inappropriate commentary, I would say, in the workplace, which thank goodness has changed for the better. But if it got to you, and I saw that for some, that it would make them very upset, you know, and after a while, you can't survive in an industry that makes you upset. Any organisation, anywhere. You've got to turn up and feel like you're okay at work, that you're safe. I think I was lucky. I had a relatively robust childhood. I had great parents who loved me, brothers and sisters. Were, you know, and my dad really, I hadn't realised that gender was such a difference when you got to the world of work, that there weren't so many women in the workplace, certainly in what I wanted to do, because he was always of the opinion it didn't really matter. What mattered was what was between your two ears and how you applied it and how hard you were going to turn up and work. And so anything was possible. And so for me, I think that always used to resonate. And he always used to say to me, never let anyone choose your career for you. You make the choice. However tough it gets, you choose when you want to make the next move or when you want to leave. But you never make no one should make you feel like you have to make a choice.
I love that. Never let anyone choose for you.
Yeah.
And has that been your principle throughout?
Always.
Would you say that's one of your kind of secret superpowers that's helped you?
It is. And when things are tough, even when they're tough and you're in control, you sit back and think, what's right for me and when is it right for me? So never rush into something. That's the other thing, right? Because you can feel things in a moment, but that can change as well. So, and again, generally, when you're feeling like that, it's probably because the situation around you, an environment around you, a person around you isn't making that easy for you. And so, yeah, my big lesson there is don't let them make the choice for you.
Make your own choice, and don't let people rush you.
Exactly.
And what are some of the roles that you've done, like in your tech career? Like, so you love the design, you love products. Like, what are some of those titles? And does some of those titles still exist? And
yeah, even now. Look, it's a great one. I actually started building databases when I started, and that was really. They called them database administrators. That was a title in those days. And then I moved into functional design, functional analyst. And that role is probably not in existence anymore. But moved into something then called object-oriented programming, which was really doing the product end of that. And we all know there's 4 families in Tesco that we use and we stick to, and actually across industry. There's the engineering family, and in that family you have lots of people, lots of different types of engineering roles, but those are the sort of guys and girls who are building stuff. You've got the product managers and product owners, and they're the girls and guys that are designing stuff and listening to what the problems are and figuring out the best way to deliver on that with engineers, but then they go off and build it. You've got your program roles, which is actually how do I get from A to B in the right timeline, working with your product and engineers, because they're the ones who are doing the work and have to make sure that they can deliver in the timelines that the program guys are trying to get them to deliver to. The program guys and girls also look after budgets, they manage the risks, they look after the oversight. And then you've got architects. And those enterprise architects or solutions architects are really about how does everything plug together? Because it would be lovely to think that we all have one big system, but it's usually hundreds. And they all have to plug into each other and they all have to talk to each other. And how do you do that the best way so that it's not too complicated, that it doesn't take forever to build new products and new features and deploy those out, because everybody wants something tomorrow. So what's the best way of doing that? So those are your 4 key families. Then you've got infrastructure, and that's your servers. How do you build your servers to allow the engineers and the product to build their product on top of? You've got cyber and security, which In today's
let's
world,
stop.
we'll-
Let's leave that there.
And then we've got data. And again, with data, you've got your data scientists and your AI, as well as your core data engineering and data analysis. So as a whole, across those families, you've got a real range of jobs, skills.
Opportunities.
Massive.
If you were starting right now again, first day in tech, working for Tesco, where would you lean towards?
I'd still lean towards product.
Would you?
Yeah, for me, it's the connection with the business. It's the connection with the business to the customer. It's about really understanding what's going to make their lives easier, how we can be a little bit more helpful every day. You know, every little helps. And we really translate that through into technology. How does everything that we have on our technology or in our stores, technically, you know, whether it's the scanners you shop, how do we make that a little bit better for our customers to save them a little bit of time? Time well saved means they can spend more time with their families or doing things that they want to do. In my instance, spending time with the dog. You know, that gives me half an hour back. Fantastic. Or time well spent. You know, I really want to look at the new F&F range and I want to browse and I want it to feel good when I'm on there. So how do I adjust what I'm designing for to make that as good as I can for the customer? And I love that connection.
Do you think with the adoption of AI, and I know AI's been around a lot longer, but it's now in the mainstream, do you think AI, used correctly, is making people and professionals better technologists?
Yeah, I do. I think technology will change, by the way. I think the ability for tech to become much more mainstream, actually, for people to be able to do so much more by themselves that aren't necessarily coming from an engineering background or any of the disciplines, quite frankly, but having the ability to use some of the apps that you see now and how they can build their own products, their own services, offer those in a way that's never been possible. I think it's a real leveler. I still think you'll need technologists, of course, and I think that there will be specialisms and, you know, lots of things that we'll still need for scale and for security and for all of those good things, why it's going to be really important to still do that. But I think that the shift will change up into the sort of business users much more so, and colleagues. Anyone can now go and build their own app, really, right? And that's quite a thing. Well, brilliant thing, actually, by the way, I think.
Well, there's apps out there that you can build a prototype within a day.
Exactly. And I think that's really levels the field for everyone a little bit. You know, it gives everyone the opportunity to give it a go. And I think I was lucky I did go to university, but that's not for everyone. And I think I'm hoping that this tech will actually change the dynamic of where your paths go. You don't necessarily have to go a traditional route. I think that's already changing, but I think that will become more and more thing.
So what I'm hearing, it's a really exciting time to get into a technology career because it's transforming so much and it's leveling the playing field so more people can get involved with it.
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about the kind of transition from banking, finance, investment over into retail. So tell me the mindset and how it happened.
Yeah.
Because you 20 years.
Yeah. In financial services.
Financial services.
Yeah.
And now you've been 6 years in retail?
Yeah.
Why did you kind of make the transition?
For me, it was really about trying something new, really trying to understand, one, could I do it? I mean, I was intrigued, all the stuff I'd learned, could I take that and do something else with it? I felt I'd also got, after 20 years, I thought if I was going to move, I felt like that was a great time to move. And I sort of needed to make a decision one way or the other. You can get stuck into an industry, and it's a brilliant industry. I love financial services. I still do. I think they you know, there's many things about it that I really enjoy. But unless you try something, you don't know what you're missing out on. And that's how it felt to me.
Very true.
I felt like there was something out there that I just needed to give a go. And
why,
why I did it.
Why at that time, like you felt it was the right time?
Yeah.
What, like others tuning in today, like that what should they be looking out for to think actually it is the right time to go and apply for a job at Tesco? It is the right time to actually put my application in. Like what?
There's lots of things that trigger it, and there's 2 or 3 things. One is, how long have you been doing the role that you've done? And are you still getting something from it? Are you still learning? For me, are you still learning something? Are you still finding that interest and excitement to come in every day and do the best job you can? I think there's also just the environment you work in, and as much as the companies I've worked for, I've been really lucky. I've worked for some great organisations. Sometimes structurally, when things change, they don't always work for you, and at that time, it wasn't really where I wanted to head. We'd changed some structures. Some of the things didn't really work for me as well, from a personal and values perspective. And so I felt now was as good a time as any to make some different decisions. And I thought, well, if I'm going to change and I'm going to move roles, why not try something completely different?
And out of all the industries, what was it about retail that made you kind of say, yes, this is great? And then obviously more specifically, why Tesco?
Yeah, so I picked retail because, well, 1, it's everywhere. 2, I love product, as I said. I love the idea of being close to the customer. I think working in banking, the one thing I would say is typically, especially on the investment and wealth side, it's very digital. It's very driven through digital, and you don't have huge amounts of customer closeness, proximity. And that, for me, I just felt the need to get to something real, something tangible. A tin of baked beans, you know, we all have them. We know where they are. We interact with something physical, whereas it had been very digital and slightly surreal. You know, lots of zeros on numbers, moving around countries, but this was about getting food from farm to shop, and actually all close to a distribution, so that you can actually try things on and again interact with customers, and for me that was a real shift, and I sort of was yearning a little bit some reality.
So you've been at Tesco for 6 years. What are some of the tips that you'd give anyone who's applying to kind of join Tesco? Like you're on the inside and you've been there 6 years. Like, what's your advice and tips to anyone who potentially thinking, actually, I want to join Tesco?
Be curious about Tesco, about who we are, what we're trying to do. And I think that's really important. Get to know the organisation that you're wanting to join. So, 1, to make sure it fits for you, but 2, so that when you turn up and have a conversation, you sort of get a bit of an essence for who we are. Because as much as we are the biggest UK retail grocer and employ 330,000 colleagues, which is a huge responsibility, we also have other businesses, whether it's our insurance money services, whether it's our Tesco Mobile, whether it's our dunnhumby data business. We have shops in Central Europe, shops in Ireland. So we're quite diverse, and I think come along, have a look and see what we're about and what we're trying to do as an organisation. So that would be one thing. I think, look, be yourself. I mean, the one thing that I value about Tesco, probably more than anywhere I've worked, is people turn up as they are and who they are. They're real to their core, and that means when you join, they want to see who you are and what you can bring. And I think without failure across the organisation, whether it's in technology or the business, you see real variety of colleagues. And to me, that is what makes it such a great place to work. I think also just be open to trying stuff. When you're starting out especially, or you join any new company, you don't really know. When I moved, there was a title, but I didn't really know what that meant. And there's only so much you can ask in an interview. And the interview is really to get a sense of, do they like you and do you like them? Does it fit? Does it feel like this is a good place to come? And then it's a bit of risk, and then it's give it a go. But don't get too hung up on where you start. Think about once you're in, what then you can do. And if you're really clear on what you really want to bring to the table, what you're really interested in, I think actually they are second to none in helping you navigate that career. So that's what I would get people to look at but truly be yourself.
I love that. I love that advice. And for you, what's something that Tesco's taught you? I'm a big believer, long life learning. If you think you know it all, you actually are in the wrong room. Go and learn from others. You can learn from every single person if you learn to listen.
Yeah.
My mum used to say, be more elephant, not hippo, because elephant has big ears and hippos have big mouths. But like, what's something that Tesco's taught you that you didn't know because the industry, because Tesco and how it is? What's something you've learned?
Right. I think Tesco has really taught me to put customer first. And I know lots of organisations will say that. And I'm not saying you can always get it perfectly right. But every conversation that we start or end is about, is this the right thing to do for our customers? Is this really the right decisions we are making? And that's really important. You could lead with, are we going to make money? Are we going to make as much money as possible? But that's not the essence of who we are. And I think that pivot of mindset and truly meaning that we want to put our customers and our communities at the heart of what we're doing does change the whole conversation. And for me, that's been a massive learning, because how you then prioritise what you do, where you invest, how you turn up looks very different. And that was a massive learning.
And what makes you happy about Tesco? Like, what makes? Because I think you can go into a job, and it could be a little thing, it could be a big thing, it could be a thing that happened yesterday. It could be moments of joy. But what makes you happy?
I love the fact we get stuff done. We are good at getting stuff done. I think one of the best operators, massive store network. We've got over 3,000 stores. We have, on top of that, then our wholesale business, and we supply lots of other stores and caterers. It's a massive, massive company. And I think they operate in a way that is all about getting, obviously, like we said, food from farm to shelf.
And then shelf to fridge, right?
Shelf, exactly. And for me, they are all about getting it done. And that's a really great place to be. So it means I can turn up every day and actually get something done.
And then you get something done, which creates fulfilment,
Exactly.
and fulfilment creates happiness,
Absolutely.
right?
And it
and you
goes
learn.
on, yeah. And you're doing that with groups of people who also want to get stuff done. And so there's a general sort of sense of energy, positivity that says we can do this as well. We're good at this, we can do it, and we're going to do it. And we're going to do it with our customer at the heart of it. And if we do that, then the rest will come good for us.
And you have about 1,400 people that work in the team.
Tech,
Tech.
For me, yeah.
For you. What are some of those roles that people can get involved with?
Yeah, so look, there's two sets. There's a core sort of tech, which is around the product roles, which we talked about a little bit, the ones that are around talking to our customers.
The one that you would do if you were to start again.
Yeah, and still really, I still look after in tech the whole product family. So for me, that's really important. So setting out how do we become the best product managers for Tesco Tech to enable the business the best way possible. So I look after that. There's engineering, and like I said, that you could be building databases, you could be doing software engineering, which is like configuring bought platforms. So sometimes we buy platforms from other vendors and experts, and you can configure that, or you can build stuff from scratch. Where like our app, that is built in-house. We're a big build organisation, so whereas some organisations will have probably slightly less product and engineering, we are quite substantial in product and engineering and tech, and that's because we believe there are some real value points of building your own things. So if you look at logistics and you look at things like waste, the algorithms that we use with our data scientists to optimize waste, as in the least possible waste as possible, because we all know with the planet the way it is, waste is exactly that. So how do we refine it to make sure we've got the right products in the right stores, and that we're getting them through the door and out of the door in the shortest possible time so that we don't lose things. Building those sort of technology products really matter, and they have a massive impact, all the way through to building digital online apps, right? But there's also things like the tech innovation team, which I also look after in labs, and that's great. And we do everything there. And you again still have engineers and product and architects and program, but they're looking at completely different things, and they're looking at spinning up products within 3 weeks, 4 weeks, seeing if it works. And loads of them don't, right? Most don't.
Why is it? That's why it's an innovation lab, right?
Exactly, and it's great but what you do is learn loads, and then some things you see through graduation. So if there's a couple of stores in London where it's what we call a complete frictionless shop. You literally scan your club card as you go in, you pick up your goods, and you walk out, and you don't need to go to a till. You're charged on your card, and that's all done through cameras and computer vision, and again algorithms that track your skeleton and weight and everything, because obviously you're picking some stuff up, you might put it back on a shelf somewhere that it shouldn't be, so you've got to track all of that, and that's pretty much all tech. And we started that in labs as a concept, and then it graduated into being a real shop that we
And you've got a few of them in London?
Yeah, there's one.
Go and check one of them out.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's great. And then we've got hybrids over in Ealing called Magic Tills, which is you go into the store, you don't necessarily have to have a club card, you can go and pick up your bits, a banana, your meal deal or whatever it may be. Get to the till, it knows what you've got, and you just scan out, but no scanning of the grocery. So we do all things like that, and then down to scan as you shop in a store, right? Which customers really do enjoy. It gives them some sort of control and freedom, but they can scan as they're going around and see what they're buying and decide, whether they want that.
And those technologies have become a norm now.
They have.
But probably weren't when there's no person to scan it.
Exactly. I mean, at that point, customer, and this is where it's really interesting, because with the lots of things, and we were talking as we go through multi-generational, that's the other thing I love about Tesco. I think, you've got 16-year-olds all the way to 80-year-olds, and you've got this vast multi-generational group of individuals who all have different needs. But it's really interesting how the tech is adopted and adapted for different generations. But to your point, lots of people, when we started to introduce it, never work. People aren't going to want to scan their own. Actually, it's one of our most popular things. People do like it.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and online is continuing to grow. We're seeing that online adoption of shopping increase. We've certainly, we've doubled in the last 5 years. I mean, the pandemic sort of helped, but people have carried on with that and increased their online shopping. So the world of tech is becoming much more integrated, and I think where the shopping experience is going to go, my view, Jack, is that at some point people will be wearing they're already out there, but your glasses, as you go around the shops, you'll be able to look at products and determine, have they got gluten in them, are they healthy for you, are they on offer, what's my promotion, and your glass, it'll be an interactive shopping experience. That's what I'm sort of seeing in the future. But you're right, and sometimes we do test things and they're just not ready. They're not quite good enough, or they're just not the right time. You can go too early.
If there was one thing, because I know there'll be loads of things, and this question may be a little bit high level, but if there was one thing that you would be adamant has helped you build a successful tech career, what would it be?
The desire to learn. I never stop. It's not possible in the world of tech. I think ever since I've joined, I've always felt slightly out of date. So it's the never-ending quest to keep up, which is also why you can't know everything, right? I mean, if you think of how broad a domain, as we talked about, if you're going into cyber and security, the depth and knowledge of some of those experts, it's a career in its own right. It's a lifetime of knowledge. That's the same for being a brilliant engineer or being brilliant at product or brilliant at architecture. It doesn't matter what. They've got big depth, as well as then how do we connect it all together to make it work in the right way? And that's also a skill, right? It's no good being, like I said, it's like the orchestra analogy. It's no good being the best engineer or the best data scientist or the best product if you can't work together. And I think learning, for me, though, and it's the understanding of what is possible. I mean, I'm literally still, I'm downloading stuff as we speak, and getting on there and building on Lovable a game.
Oh, so that's what you was doing in the break.
That's right. But, building a game so I can play that with my niece or something, just to remind myself God, how things have changed. I've got to know this stuff, you know, as much as anyone else. But of course, the generations coming through almost have a slight advantage at the moment. But I've got to be relevant, otherwise the conversation doesn't work. So that would be my one thing. It never stops, never stops.
Are you ready for my final question?
I am.
What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
I get out of bed every morning because I genuinely love working with people. And I love what we can do to solve problems. And for me, every day I come in and think, do you know, we can make this better. We can do something that will make something better. And that for me is just enough. It doesn't have to be big, but if we can chip away and I can leave something in a better place than when I started, that's enough to get me and do my duvet flip. Wow.
I just want to say thank you for joining us on the show. I feel like we're connected in a way. I've really enjoyed this.
I have. I really have, Jack, so thank you. No, thank you.
Thank you. And there we are. How do you find that? That's cold, isn't it?
Really good.
Good. Just flies by.
Yeah.